So, or at least, sorry, why don't you just tell me a little bit about your offer, just so I have some context as to what you got going on?
Sure. So I'm in the high ticket sales space. I personally have been a closer for over a decade. I've done damn near $100 million in closing, but I've never been front face. So I've ran sales teams. I've closed for different entrepreneurs. Um, Last year, I partnered up with a gentleman in the space to take his business to the next level. Wasn't really aligned with how he was running things. So I fell in love with the B2C space of like helping people get into high ticket sales because I've always done closing and I've built closers, but I've never like taken a normal person and it's like, hey, you want to make money from home and there's this thing called high ticket. You should.
Sure.
And so I got into that space last year with another gentleman. Wasn't really aligned, did really well there, but wasn't aligned. And January this year, I parted ways. I launched my own brand called Seven Figure, where I'm teaching people, personal development, first and foremost, appointment setting, closing. And then before they get certified, where they work with their placement team to get on offers, I have something called a development certification where they get on my offer to send and close to generate actual revenue to be like, hey, Eddie, I actually did $250,000 with this academy in 2 months. I can more likely do the same thing for you versus like, hey, I got trained by Seven Figure, don't really have any experience, but I want to close for you. I mean, dude, you probably say no to that person.
Yeah, yeah. So you're placing them on your own offer for a little bit and sending them some test traffic to get at least like verified before you kind of release them to your clients.
That's what I do. So since March, we did actually over $2 million cash collected. I had an Instagram account running, but Meta banned me.
Yeah.
So, we did about 1 million plus with my personal brand, straight DM ads in the last 2 months. We did over $1 million straight organic, affiliate, upsells, etc. So now I'm at a place where I'm like, okay, I gotta like figure out scale because organic affiliate, it's profitable. In my opinion, it's not as scalable as I'd like it to be.
Yeah, the hardest part, and we've been burned a number of times, and some people graduate, some people don't, and we're still trying to figure out what that variable is. The hardest part is graduating from organic to paid. The narrative entirely changes, right? All that know, like, and trust that you built through organic pretty much disappears, and you're met with extreme pessimism, right? And so you have this very short opportunity to kind of win back a lot of that know, like, and trust. Usually it's through your ads, and a lot of it's, at least in this point, through your narrative, right? So what I'll say is webinars to cold traffic is tough, right? What I'd probably start with is a webinar to a VSL funnel, and to a standard booked call. This way you can at least control the variables, and test your offer in theory before you start to invite people into a public experience. The reason why I say this, and unless you got cash to burn, right, or at least you're a bit more risk averse, the reason why I say this is because it's extremely it's no fun when you spend 25, 50, 100 grand driving traffic to a webinar. Very little people show. The people that do show are highly aligned, and you close at a lower rate than you wanted to. And it's so easy to fuck up, right? Where at least in a VSL funnel, you're able to control the burn, and you have a good understanding after listening to these sales calls and just the interpretation of the VSL itself as to what ideas under what narrative win people in to your opportunity. Now, I imagine what was your story? Right, you came from the corporate life and then you started closing. How did you get into this space?
Long story short, I grew up in the streets, Section 8. I actually started in clothing. I built one of the biggest clothing brands at 14. Sold it to Tyga at 18, became his creative director, launched a brand called Last Kings. I was really big in the fashion space. Unfortunately, I fell into the scene of Hollywood and drugs and women, and pretty much lost everything overnight. Came back to San Diego because I lived in LA, and I was homeless, and I got into telemarketing. So I got into sales, like straight boiler room status, cold calling, hated it, sucked. But then 3-4 months later, after investing into Grant Cardone's, workshop, I mastered sales, became a top producer there, launched my own company at 21 years old, took a company public, and the rest is kind of history from there. So that's kind of like how I fell into the space. So it was over 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, one, you have a hero's journey. Sometimes they're so strong that you're unbelievable, unrelatable, right?
Yeah.
And you're reaching that territory where it opens the objection of, but I'm not him. Look at all these grand accolades that this guy completed before most people, right, even got out of school.
That's kind of like what I've experienced as well. So so I did an organic affiliate webinar play when I launched this, and we did very well. I think it was like 40K the first week. I didn't share any of that. Okay. I shared the story of when I was 16 and I worked at Shoe Palace as a shoe person. I didn't share I actually did a lot more than just sales. I actually just moved that out of the storytelling.
Yeah.
Just
what was the narrative of that webinar, or at least what was the presentation that you did?
Okay, so in this high ticket sales space, at least in my particular niche, there's a lot of academies right now. There's people, everyone and their mom is training high ticket. So what's happening is there's a new market being created of people buying these courses, no experience, and having somewhat failure getting to offers. So I've been targeting the people that bought courses. They're not on offers. They want to get on an offer. And so the play was a speed to success play. Like, hey, you've been studying for 3-4 months. You've spent 2 months trying to get offers, having no luck. You got to get experience. We have a way to get you experience. It's a learn and earn opportunity. You get to learn, you get to earn. And after you hit a certain milestone, we actually help you get on offers. And that's, that was the birth of this offer from that webinar.
Cool. I like that. And then the narrative 100%, it makes a lot of sense. So is this a little bit closer to like a done for you style offer? Is that provided they complete the front end training, you guys have offer? I mean, well, you said you take them into your own offer internally, and then once they graduate out of that, you're going to place them onto a separate offer.
Yeah, our placement service looks like, I have connections, but if someone's like, hey, I actually want to work in a fitness offer, we scout the internet for top offers. We actually email them for them. We get them on calls. We actually show up on a Zoom call with them, and we fight high commission. We go to bat for them, and we help them get on offers. So that's what our placement looks like.
How many people have you placed recently?
I would say like a dozen.
Okay, enough. And do you have lead flow right now?
So I do organically, and then we've launched with WAP ads. Yep. One of my top closers are using his likeness right now on Instagram for leads. It's not, we're getting leads, but we haven't converted anything from that yet. This was something we just did last week. I met with Ryan. I told him, kind of what I've been struggling with. He recommended I use WAP ads, and we've been able to get that launched over the last week. We just haven't seen any conversions yet because the demographic right now, it's not our ideal demographic on the leads right now, but it's, we're optimizing it daily.
What are you guys? Is this a new money making opportunity for people who currently aren't making money, or is it a way for people who make a little bit of money already doing sales to make more?
I would say it's both. But if I were to choose
which one's better, because both gets tough.
It'd be new. Yeah.
It'd be like net new, right? You're going to take a nobody and make them somebody.
Yeah.
So now what you then need is a framework to determine what that person needs to look like in order to get results, right? What symptoms have you found from people who have no signals, right? Or at least the market doesn't deem them valuable right now. What signals are there that you deem them looking to be valuable, and how that aligns with your mechanism of a kingmaker, in that these are the things that I need to see in order to turn people from X to Y. Here are the examples, right, of people actually getting these results. And, right, here's proof that on the supply side, the offers, right, that they're actually looking for people that are going to be like you, right? So that kind of narrative needs to be built. And it may sound something like, we're looking for people that have that are currently in the self-service industry, or at least we're looking for people that are in fast food because they have experience with X, Y, and Z. And we found out that people that work under these certain conditions and durations are able to perform better in remote high ticket sales because X, Y, and Z. Most people believe this, right? But through all of my experience, right, and through my own journey, I've determined that these are the three variables that actually lead to people collecting large amounts of dollars on the phone. Now, right, here's proof in the marketplace, right, that these people are actually more needed than ever. There is a very simple supply and demand inverse. And we want to use simple terms, right? Because these are simple people, right? They understand very simple things, and they should understand a term as simple as supply and demand, right? And when the chart looks like this, somebody's making more money than they should. Who's that person right now? It's high ticket closers. Every other offer is on the internet. Every other thing is sold through the internet. More businesses need more people on the phone. Now, we thought that you would think the office white guy, the corporate bro that we pull out of a sales floor would do well. Why do they fail? X, Y, and Z. They are everything that you are not, right? Which is why I'm talking specifically to you. Now,
would this be a PSL or would this be an ad?
It would be both, right? So this is just your overarching idea. And then you're going to start to segment and pull some of these things out. They're going to go into your ad, your video sales letter, and then ideally into your webinar as well, right? So if you start running, like if everything looks really strong, right, and you fill, like if you fill a closer's calendars really, really quickly off this idea, you can graduate right into a webinar real quick, right? Because the function of the webinar is not to, yes, it does like invite slightly different people, right? But it's ideally gonna close at the same efficiency as your sales funnel. Right. It's just going to have way more people at once, right? And so it's really a sales bottleneck solver, not like a new revenue generator kind of thing, right? So that's why I run some of these leaner funnels until you hit your max sales capacity in a one-to-one sales basis, then open up to one-to-many, right? Because we all, like, you've listened to all the calls, you understand all the objections, you know the worst people that are going to show up and just start spewing shit in the chat, and you'd be like, chat, I already know what you're talking about. You don't think I've talked to people like you? Everyone that looks like you, and then this is in your webinar presentation, everyone that looks like you only wants to know these three things, which aligns with, Dan Henry's like belief builder kind of thing, Russell Brunson's perfect webinar script. They're all the same. We all just rewrote the same fucking book, right? And so it's like, can you turn somebody from a non-believer to a believer, right? And so a lot of people historically have done that with their story, right? Which is why when you watch Dan's webinars, they're very story driven because his hero's journey is very relatable. Pizza guy, luckily worked into a nightclub. Nightclub was given to him. IRS fucked him. And now he's at ground one and he starts a course on this very simple thing, right? People are like, oh my God, that could be me.
So my whole hero journey, I have to simplify it and not make myself too not relatable.
Yes. Yeah. If you decide to go that route, right? Now, the alternative is that I'm just so fucking smart and good that I'm already at the top of the mountain, right? And I have proximity, right? Which is essentially sometimes the game that Eddie plays. Eddie will run the hero's journey sometimes, right? And invite new people in, look how relatable I was, whatever, right? And look at I had the same objections you did, right? Whereas there are other times where I say, you'll never be as big as me, or nobody else has this proximity. At the top of this mountain, I could see everything. And what comes from seeing everything is you start to see patterns, trends, anomalies, and congruencies, meaning that there are certain things that win versus not, right? And when you jump on a call with Eddie, one of the first things that most people ask him is, what's working right now, right? If you're the guy that has visibility on all these funnels and all these circumstances and have seen everything that works as not, you should have some sort of simulation as to what works. What are the patterns, right? Yeah. And so that's a proximity you could definitely lead in, which is why I asked how many people have you closed recently, right? And all the other things is because in your webinar, there are typically two things. It's church, right? Which is definitely your story, the old school way of converting believers to non-believers. Let me tell you about these basic people who committed sins, right? And how they were able to work their way out and they're now new believers, right? Hard, takes a lot of camera skill, all that fun stuff, but you probably have the cuts for it. Now, the alternative is you report the news. And you say, here's who I am. Here's how I got here. Here's what I could see. And here are all the patterns. This is proof that it exists. And this is proof that it's going to happen again, right? And these are mostly what are the other webinars we run, because they're just basic ass people on the camera. They don't have a ton of authority, but what they do have is they do have data aligned with an opportunity. And so for you, I think you do a little bit of mix of both, right? All these crazy things got me to the top of this hill, right? And I'm looking for these type of people that are arguably find themselves on the same type of journey, right? Whether it be coming back from nothing or some sort of recovery or whatever.
Right.
And because of my proximity, I know that there's this insane supply and demand inverse. And that's enough market data that you need to show. Be like, look at every time I post in my chat, or every time I talk to my friends, or every time I talk to a community, right? Smart people, you need to show like market forces and interest rates and banknotes and all these different things so that they want to buy self-storage in Arizona, right? Which is things that we've had to do, right? This is the history of capital rates in Arizona, and this is the land values and all these other things. And when we see land values do this versus the cost per square footage, we know self-storage needs to go there. And they're all like, yes, that's an opportunity, I'll buy. Whereas this is a little bit different, right? You can kind of bake it down to more simpler things. And that look at all this like social proof and proximity that of people with money saying they want to give you money, right? Now, the only thing you need to have them believe is that they could be that person that is able to get the money on the other side. What does it actually require? It requires you to take the pre-existing skills that you have, because I've pre-identified you. I called out you because you were this person that is able to have a 10-degree perspective shift and take your low value skill and actually turn it into a high value skill.
Right.
And this is the framework to go through it. In your instance, there are no coulds, right? People are going to say, well, could I do it like this? Could I do it like that? Could it be like this? And you say, no, people are paying you for shoulds. It should be like this. It should be like that. You should do this. It should only be like this. And so you're going to have a very clear, defined framework. Most people fail through these vehicles, especially in the one-to-many, is because they don't have an actual framework for repeatable results, right? Which is a symptom that people like you honestly fall into a lot, because it needs to be way more believable. You are an anomaly of a human, right? Yes. Your hero's journey is insane. And so for you to say, just do it like this, right? It's like, but brother, nobody's done anything like you, right? And so how do you bake it down into a repeatable plan for the simple man? And that's going to come from you looking at all of the students that you signed, right? And look at their journey and path to success for growth and say, it's actually this pattern, right? And when we see people like
I need to refine my program before I sell it on a webinar. Like, I'm just trying to understand the direction.
I think reverse engineer how your program exists now into how you can communicate that this is a repeatable system, and there's market proof on the other side that people want it as well.
Okay.
All right. Because there's a lot of people out there that pitch that X career could make them money, right? And all of them are just trying to make it out, right? And there's a bunch of different ways for them to make it out. You have a couple different beliefs you need to shift, right? One, that they could be a person that has high value, right? Through this very repeatable thing that's very easy. It doesn't take a long time, nor a lot of skill or money. Two, right? That people actually want people that look like this, right? Businesses have a function for people like you that is as old as time, right? Yeah. And we're going to talk about, all you see in the news is about how people are getting fired from their job and people are being replaced by AI. But you want to know who's never going to be replaced and actually needed more than ever?
Yeah.
Salespeople, not just salespeople, high ticket salespeople that are able to do these types of negotiations. Now, right? I have a way, right, for you to be like that, right? We know that these people are wanted, and now we know that they're wanted in abundance, right? And so you need to imply and just show just enough level proof, right? And Dan used to do this with his with his Facebook posts where it was the curious student, right? Where basically be like, hey, you would post on your Facebook page and all of these comments would come out, right? Different time back then. But he used that single image of a very simple post with lots of demand, right? It was like upwards of 200 comments to be like, look, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. Look at all of the demand out of this one simple action. And you're going to say the same thing. When I go call to my network and I go reach out to my people and my vendor partners that are looking for people like you, when I make one post, look how many come out. Look how many opportunities are for you, provided you meet this criteria, and look what your revenue and earning potential is, right? And people are like, oh, fuck, not only is this a thing, not only could I be that, but there is actually so much demand for this, it's in abundance, and that it's very unlikely it could fail. And all that evidence, is substantiated just by more and more data. And you kind of use your story to align that narrative there.
I like that. I think that's genius.
So